Oh, Simon, we've got Mr. Sivanathan, who is Mr. Faruma's representative.
Oh, yes. Let me just check. So speaking on his behalf.
Yes.
Okay. Just check.
Okay, I'll just confirm the stream starting and then we'll start. Councillor Short. So I'll introduce it, but I'll just confirm the stream started.
Yes.
Okay. 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 Good morning. I'm Cathy Hayward, Clerk to the Committee. It's now 10:30. Welcome to this virtual meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee to hear the application 58720000204 New World Chicken Limited, 30 Woodcote Road, Wallington, SM6ONN. Could I ask when you're speaking that you turn your microphone off as it saves the bandwidth? The meeting is being streamed to the public for you, streamed to the public on YouTube. When I read your name and your role of the attendees, could I ask you to turn on your mic and your camera, indicate you're present? For panel members, could you also declare any interests when I read your name? So firstly, the panel, Councillor Gillian Green.
Interest. Oh, hold on. Yeah, present, no interest.
Thank you. Councillor Marlene Heron.
Yes, I'm present and I've got no interest to declare.
Thank you. And Councillor Jake Short.
Present and no interest to declare.
Thank you. And the legal advisor to the panel is Simon Khan.
Good morning.
Licensing officer Hannah Smith.
Good morning.
The applicant's representative, Mr. Sivanathan. Mr. Sivanathan, are you able to say you're present? I'll come back to Mr. Sivanathan. Richard O'Dell, Environmental Protection Officer.
Good morning.
And a person who's made a valid representation, Councillor Steve Cook.
Yes, good morning. Councillor Steve Cook, Councillor for Wallington South.
Thank you. And Mr. Sivanathan, are you, I'm not sure if you're here now.
Yeah, good morning. Okay. Yeah, I'm representing Mr. Pelamal. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, the panel is here to listen to those who've made representations, the applicant and the applicant's representative and officers and what they have to say about this and take a decision. If we could move to item 2, which is election of the chair, could I ask a member of the panel to propose a chair for the meeting?
I propose Councillor Short.
And is it somebody able to second that?
I can second that, thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor Short is elected as chair. If I hand to Councillor Short to continue the agenda, please.
Thank you, Cathy. As this is a virtual meeting, could I please ask that when you speak for the first time, please state your name clearly before you begin. Councillors, could you please introduce yourselves with your title and name? Other attendees, could you mention your name and any roles that you have? You don't need to do this every time that you speak, but it will help. It will help if you do it for the first time. Members of the panel, if you want to raise a point during the meeting, could you use the chat function, please, on the right-hand side, where you can type question. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat box as the meeting progresses. Could I ask that any members who can't use the chat box, please let me know now, and we can try to work something out. Are you able to access the chat box, Councillor Green and Heron? I'm going to take that as yes.
Yes, I'm nodding.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yes, I can use it.
Yeah, brilliant. At this hearing, so no cross-examination will be allowed, and all questions must come through me as the chair. As there have been no declarations of interest, I'll move past item 3 onto item 4, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. Could I ask if Councillor Heron, who was present at the previous meeting, are you happy for those minutes to be agreed?
Happy to agree the minutes, Chair.
Brilliant. Okay. So what we're here to discuss is the application for a new premises licence held in respect of a premises known as New World Chicken. Could I just confirm that the applicant's agent, Councillor Cook and Richard Odell, have received the procedures for the hearing, please?
I've received them, yes, thank you, Chair.
Brilliant. Councillor Cook?
Yes, hello.
You've got the procedure of the hearing, yes?
No, I've just got my statement to read out here. That's all I have with me at the moment.
Okay. So the procedure is in the agenda pack. If you want to take a quick look at that.
Okay.
Yeah. Could I ask that Hannah Smith, the licensing officer, present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Hannah Smith. I'm the licensing officer. Let me present this for you. I can make sure you can all hear me. Give me some sort of thumbs up. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So today we have a new application for a new premises license for New World Chicken Limited, 30 Woodcote Road, Wallington. And that's SM60NN. The application is seeking a new premises license to permit late night refreshment during the following hours: Sunday to Wednesday, 11 till 1 a.m. the following morning, and Thursday to Saturday, 11 p.m. till 2 a.m. the following morning. Relevant pages of the application form are attached to Appendix 1, and the proposed hours are laid out on Appendix 2. I can confirm that the applicant has advertised the application by way of public notice. This was displayed at the premises and in a local newspaper. The application was also made available on the Sutton Council's website. I can confirm that all responsible authorities received a copy of this application, and the Council's pollution control team, as a responsible authority for the prevention of public nuisance, has raised a representation which is attached to Appendix 4. We did also receive one valid representation which was received by other parties. This representation makes reference to matters that relate to the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. A copy of this representation is attached to Appendix 5. A map showing the approximate location of the premises is attached to Appendix 6, and photographs of the premises are on Appendix 7. In considering this application, the subcommittee is required to take into account Secretary of State's guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and its own licensing policy. Relevant paragraphs are attached on Appendix 8. If the application is granted, the applicant has proposed a number of additional measures to promote these licensing objectives. These measures, which could be attached to the licence as conditions, are laid out in Appendix 3. I will happily answer any questions the committee may have now.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions for the licensing officer? No? I'll take that as no.
Councillor Heron, no.
Yeah. Okay. If that being the case, could I ask the applicant's agent, Mr. Sivanathan, to provide your submission to the subcommittee, please? You'll have upwards of 15 minutes.
Hi, everybody. Just my cousin is I filled on behalf of my cousin, Mr. Chidambaram Perumal, and obviously I would like to address all the we took serious consideration of all the issues raised by the officers, and we will cooperate with any suggestions put towards us to meet any kind of what do you call pollution, unwanted events, like a notice or anything we want to display, any guidance to us, we'll be following that. That's what we want to confirm. Apart from that, I have nothing to say, to be honest. we will accept any decisions this committee takes. Thank you.
Okay. Does the panel have any questions for the applicant's agent?
I don't have any, councillor.
Okay.
I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to just query with you in the your application on page 35 of the agenda pack. There is a point about seasonal variations in which we've received, you've put down British summertime. Could we just have an expansion on what you mean by that necessarily? It's not immediately clear.
Hi, we just seasonal variation. I thought it's only for the New Year's Eve and then Christmas Eve. Apart from that, I was thinking maybe the time difference. That's why I choose this British time. So I wasn't sure about it as well. So.
Okie dokie. Would it be worth for the licensing officer to perhaps explain what the how the license would work? I assume that when British summertime does kick in, there is no need to ask for an additional hour. It sort of is automatic. Is that correct?
As far as I'm aware, can I just ask the applicant, are you doing that when it hits 1 AM and then the clocks go back or forward, if they go back, you want the extra hour? Or I think we might need to get the applicant to clarify how it's, because you've gone for the extra hours on the seasonal time, so like Christmas. Do you still, the hours you're going for currently in your application, is that the same for what you want for British summertime?
Yes, both. Yeah, same time throughout the year.
Can I just ask, Sima, I assume we could just take that part out then?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at British summertime, on the last Sunday in March, it's saying that the clocks go forward 1 hour at 1 AM. So at the moment, the applicant's seeking until 1 AM which would fall on a Sunday, and then closing at 1:30. So the closing at 1:30 would automatically become 2:30 anyway. The 1 AM should automatically be converted to 2 AM. But I mean, it may be just for the sake of clarity that be included on there, because it's actually on the dot. Do you see what I mean? So it wouldn't harm to have that on there if that is what the applicant is actually wanting, if you see what I mean, just because it falls exactly at 1 AM. So it could be construed that you should have closed, or it is now 2 AM. Do you see what I mean?
Okay.
So maybe for clarity, if that's on the, if he so the applicant has confirmed he does want the additional hour on the British summer. I mean, it should kick in automatically, but I wouldn't see there's any harm in having that on there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also if you're minded to grant until 1 AM anyway, so this doesn't kick in unless it's granted. So I wouldn't see any harm in having that in there if he has now clarified that is what he wants, just for the sake of anything in the future, because it just hits on that exact time. The 1:30 is less of an issue, but the
Okay, could I just ask the applicant's agent then, is that all correct and we're all on the same page there now?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, good. Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant again, or are we all good?
I'm fine.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Green as well? Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, I'm fine, Councillor Short, thanks.
Brilliant. Okay. Could I therefore ask Richard Odell, the Environmental Protection Officer, who's made a valid representation from responsible authorities, to provide your submission? This should be an expansion on the details in your letter rather than additional points, and you'll have also up to 15 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Richard Odell, I work for the Noise and Pollution team in Environmental Health. For me, I think we need to consider what Wallington High Street is currently like, and whether we wish to alter its nighttime provision with a greater nighttime economy. The premises are located within a busy Wallington High Street. This has a typical mixture of retail shops, banks and cafes on ground floors, and offices and residential accommodation on the first floors and above. But what strikes me about the High Street is that currently there are no takeaways offering late night refreshments south of the railway station. There are takeaways on the High Street and the nearby Ross Parade, but these close by late evening at the latest. The majority of other premises close by 5 to 6 p.m. Therefore, after about 9 p.m, when road traffic noise tends to die down, the atmosphere is very different than the normal daytime busy high street feel. Apart from the Greek Vine restaurant, there are two pubs in the area with a late licence: the Whispering Moon, located more or less immediately opposite the premises, and the Star, a 3-minute walk past the railway station. The Whispering Moon is permitted to trade until 1:30 a.m, closing at 2 a.m. The Star to 2 a.m, closing at 2:30 a.m. The Wallington Arms is currently closed, but retains a premises licence closing at 1 a.m. And as we've heard, this application seeks to provide hot food takeaway until 2 a.m. 30 to Saturdays and 1 a.m. Sundays to Wednesdays. My concern is that should this application be granted, it will be the only takeaway open in the High Street at this time, and will act as a magnet for departing patrons from the pubs, particularly the Whispering Moon and the Wallington Arms should it reopen. A proportion of these patrons, a significant number of which are likely to be under the influence of alcohol, will not disperse away from the area as is currently taking place, but will remain in the area for longer. This is likely to lead to an increase in noise from shouting, raised voices, and potentially antisocial behaviour, leading to crime and disorder concerns. The premises makes little provision for how they intend to manage this potential problem. While it could be argued that residents will already be exposed to some noise from patrons leaving the pubs at closing time, currently there are no premises that would encourage them to remain in the area and provide an opportunity for non-dispersal. With the close proximity of numerous residential flats overlooking this area, there is a likelihood that this could lead to sleep disturbance and public nuisance. While the planning regime falls under a different regulatory framework, it is noted that in Sutton's licensing policy, paragraph 70, there is an expectation that the planning consent granted will be a consideration in the submission of a premises licence application. The premises was granted planning consent for A3 use, including a takeaway, back in 1998. Condition 10 controls the permitted hours of use to end at 11 p.m, with all staff and patrons to vacate the premises by 11:30 p.m. The purpose of this condition is stated as to safeguard the amenities of nearby residential premises. I would therefore recommend that this licence is refused, as it will conflict with the council's public nuisance and crime and disorder licensing objectives. However, if the subcommittee are minded to grant some form of licence, I would suggest that perhaps opening Friday to Saturday up to midnight would be acceptable. The applicant would, however, need to obtain a variation to their planning consent. In these circumstances, I have suggested some conditions in my earlier written representation. See page 50 of Appendix 4. But I would also like to take this opportunity to add a further condition, which is all staff / security shall endeavour to move customers on and discourage them from congregating in the immediate vicinity of the premises. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I just make sure that we've got that written down?
Yes.
As a further option.
Yeah.
Are you able to put the wording in the chat bar?
Can do.
For the
Yep,
legal advisor, please.
I will do that.
Brilliant, thank you. Could I ask the Green or Heron, have you got any questions for the Environmental Protection Officer?
No, I haven't.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay. I don't either. So if we perhaps just pause for a second to make sure that the that further condition is noted down. And I've
Please,
just
could you
seen
just repeat that? Sorry, Mr. O'Donnell.
Yeah.
All staff security shall endeavour to move customers on
and discourage them from congregating in the immediate vicinity of the premises.
in the immediate vicinity.
I'm sending it on the message at the moment.
Oh yes,
It'll take me a little while though to work my fingers around the keyboard.
And Chair, is it worth just asking the applicant if he's got any comments on that additional condition, because it wasn't in the
yes. Yes. Is the applicant prepared to accept the conditions that the Environmental Protection Officer has laid out thus far? Are there any comments that you've got?
No.
Is this no, you're not prepared to accept them, or no, you've got no comments?
No, it's like I understand the need. Obviously, we have to put a notice and everything to safeguard the residents surrounding us, and just to ask the patrons to leave quietly and all these things, the normal procedures we need to take in consider. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. In that case, could I ask Councillor Steve Cook to come in now? You've made a valid representation. As with the previous representation, this should be an expansion on what you've submitted rather than any new material. And you'll have also up to about 15 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. My understanding is that currently this takeaway shop is open throughout the day up until 11 o'clock, and this is effectively an extension of the license that they currently have, and opening until 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. will be an attractor for the emptying pubs nearby, that the Whispering Moon and the Star, which was formerly known as the Melbourne, and the Wallington Arms, should it reopen. So both these pubs have got reputations, shall we say, and there's been a lot of disturbances around there in the past. And when they reopen, the police have they believe that situation will probably carry on. So it seems to me that there will be trouble around that area will be obvious at that time of night. And I serve on the Wallington South Ward panel with the Safer Neighbourhood team, and I know that they would not welcome this situation and this application to proceed. I always have my main concerns are for the local residents that live above the shops in Woodcote Road in that neighbourhood, who will suffer the noise nuisance with the takeaway being open till 1 or indeed 2 a.m. And they face the possibilities of losing sleep, especially during the summer when their windows open. And now with the lockdown, with the home deliveries, which I'm sure New World Chicken will probably like to partake in, or probably do partake in, there will be all the scooters turning up and revving up and parking up underneath the shop, underneath their windows, until 2 o'clock in the morning doing home deliveries. And that would be an added nuisance. But I think the other concerns we have are for the litter that will be there, and lack of toilets in the area. It will mean that the alleyways at the side of the shops will end up being used as toilets, and they'll need to be cleaned up probably every day. And the whole thing, to me, I mean, being till 11 o'clock at night, to me seems, the way they're working at the moment, seems quite acceptable. But this till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning is a recipe for disaster. and I think we should object to this license for this extension. And that's really all I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cook. Are there any questions for Councillor Cook from the panel? No. Okay. Could I?
None from me.
Ask, okay. Thank you, Councillor Green. Could I just ask the concerns that you've raised about prevention of crime and disorder and prevention of public nuisance are quite similar to the representation that was made by Mr. Odell. How could I just get your input on your view on the conditions that he has offered if the committee were minded to grant some form of license? Would that be acceptable from your perspective?
Totally not. I think it should be left at 11 o'clock, 7 days a week, if I was given the chance to decide.
Okay.
I think 11 o'clock in Wallington High Street is more than adequate for this type of operation.
Okay. So I've just seen Councillor Heron would like to speak. Would you be able to come in now, Councillor Heron? Are you there? Councillor Heron, are you there? You're still muted, I'm afraid. If you press Control D.
I can hear you, Councillor Heron.
I can't hear Councillor Heron.
Ah, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. Is there any nuisance or trouble around this chicken place as it is now, or is it well run?
Are you asking me?
I am. Sorry,
yeah.
Councillor.
No, as far as I'm concerned, it's very well run at the moment. The problems tend to be with young gangs meeting up around the station area, and they tend to dissipate around 9 or 10 o'clock when everything starts to close down. But I think the young gangs would hang around and maybe stay there longer if this shop was open. And but the problems occur when the pubs empty out, and that's nothing to do with the chicken shop. It's just the third parties coming out of the pubs do tend to cause a nuisance, and there have been drug taking issues and various other problems with drunkenness in that area, particularly up in Ross Parade, which is across the road from this restaurant and under the bridge where the train station is.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I make a point?
In just a moment, could I come in briefly, just to ask, with the licensed premises that are in the area, we've mentioned the pubs. Are you perhaps slightly worried that this may almost cause an arms race, as it were, almost an accelerated? You'll have so many other premises sort of putting in for similar hours. Is that something that sort of is a concern for you? Would you say, while we can't consider it, it is worth keeping that in mind?
Yes, it could start a domino effect with everyone else asking to do the same thing, and we can imagine what it would be like if the Kentucky Fried Chicken place and the several around Wallington there are dozens of chicken places which are all open till quite late. And I think the domino effect would have a very, very detrimental effect on the area.
Okay. I think so. The applicant's agent wished to come in. Could you come in through me? So address me with what you would like to say, please, Mr. Sivanathan.
Mr. Councillor Jack, I would like to make a point on the deliveries. He mentioned about the scooters, noises, and all these things. At the moment, we have a procedure requested. It's only Uber drivers doing deliveries late after 11 p.m. and they come backside. There won't be any disturbance. They don't come in the front and park the scooter in front of the shop. They go to the back alleyway and get the food there. So there won't be any issues to the upstairs flats, because there is from the alleyway there won't be any noise will be produced to the flats above. And also there is plenty of noise on the streets anyway with the ongoing traffics in the night time. So that I don't believe any extra noises or going to create. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any young gangs hanging around in Wallington. I never come across all these things. So I don't know where it's not going to influence any gang members or anybody to come into the store. So I just want to address that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. That being the case, could I go to Mr. Odell and then Councillor Cook, and then we will sort of wrap up, I think, at that point. Mr. Odell, have you got anything to say on the points that have just been raised?
I think the point that's been raised regarding sort of a foot in the door, when it comes to, there's obviously a lot of competition between takeaways, and they're all seeking a very similar market, and there's a limited number of people. And I think there is a danger that if one of these takeaways in the high street were to get a late license, it will be seen as a green light for others to do so. And I think I'm just going to go back on the previous point I made. Wallington High Street is a peculiar thing. I came from I'm a Kingston-based officer, and I've been working in Kingston for about 30 years. And with the shared service, I now switch between Kingston and Sutton. And what strikes me about Wallington High Street is that it's a busy daytime high street, but come evening, it's quite different. Yes, there is still a thoroughfare for traffic, but it does die down quite significantly. The footfall dies down substantially. And it's the pubs that are there and the one restaurant that's open late, the Greek Vine. It's important that the people leaving that are not encouraged to dawdle and to hang around. And I think that there is a danger that if this application is granted as is, this will be a major issue for people to remain in the area, and they may well be able to be encouraged to disperse from the immediate area. But there's this big grey area. What is the immediate area of a premises? It could be five feet away from the door. It go beyond the immediate area. And certainly it could be on the railway station bridge, will be way outside the immediate area. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cook, would you like to sum up as well briefly?
Yeah.
If there's anything you'd like to add.
The gentleman made a reference to the fact that they currently only have Uber Eats doing their deliveries at the moment, but presumably if they got quite busy at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning and their customer base expanded as it could easily do, they could sign up to Deliveroo, and they could sign up to any other home delivery company. There are several of them at the moment, and of course the more they do, the more the scooters will turn up. And I don't see the difference between whether they turn up at the front or the back. There are still people that live in the shops, in the flats above the shops. So it still would be an attractor for noise and just general nuisance and difficulty for sleeping at night. So yeah, I'm still not convinced. Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, if I could just come in, I think you did allude to it in your question anyway, but just to say, obviously you're considering this application, this individual application on its own merits. I mean, obviously other people come along doesn't necessarily mean that they will get the same or exactly, you know, it's each case on its own merits. So just to make that point from a legal point of view. Thank you.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I should have made that very clear.
You did allude to it. I thought I should just clarify.
Just state it very clearly, yeah. Okay, could I, just to sum up, could I ask the applicant now if there is any further final point you would like to make? You don't need to. As we've heard from the other two, it's therefore fair that you be given a final summing up as well.
I'm fine. I don't want to make any more.
Okay, thank you. So the committee will therefore now retire to make our decision. The full decision will be provided to the applicant and those who made representations within 5 days, and a brief decision will be emailed later on today. The minutes of the meeting will be added to the website in due course. I would just like to sort of close by saying thank you for attending. This has been the first ever virtual licensing panel. So we've had a few things to iron out through the process, but using